All right, guys, just want to welcome back to the Everything College Football Podcast. Today, me and Nick here. We're doing a preview and prediction for ranked matchup between rivals USC and Notre Dame. Irish sit at 8.5-point favorites, 61.5 the total, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on NBC from South Bend, Indiana. Getting things started with this SC offense against the Irish defense for USC. This is a team coming into this game off a very impressive effort against Michigan, a game that certainly could have went either way, especially against that great Wolverine D. And they put up 489 yards of offense, 200 plus rushing and passing. They had 2 turnovers inside the red zone as well, Nick. So they could have won this game by a lot more as well. Jade Mayava coming in as one of the top quarterbacks in the country, 72%, 309 yards passing per game. He certainly is valuable as a runner in the goal line and in those short yardage situations. Only 2 interceptions, one against Michigan. That was just a complete boneheaded move inside the 5. But Nick, he's been great, especially with his touch, his vision, his accuracy. Just him commanding this offense has been great all year long. Was able to lead them from behind against Illinois to a late victory. He had a bad pick in that one as well. This is a highly productive offense. It starts with Mekhi Lemon, one of the top receivers in the country, 682 yards and 6 touchdowns. It's going to be a great matchup if Notre Dame opts to run a lot of man coverage with Leonard Moore and Christian Gray. I think Moore is one of the top corners in the country, potentially might even shadow Lemon in this game, regardless of where they line him up at. Jacoby Lane, numbers aren't all that impressive, but he's a guy that's been battling some health this year. Came back against Michigan, had a touchdown in the red zone. He can make you pay with his physicality. Then Lake McCree at tight end. Him and Walker Lyons have been very good down the seams. So this is a really good USC offense. It's going to be a pass-first approach likely as their top 2 running backs are down. Good news is King Miller, he came in and put up 158 rushing, Nick. He looked very good on 18 attempts, including a couple of explosives there in that one. And then Brian Jackson got on the field and had a nice touchdown as well. So I truly think as an SC fan, this running back room is vastly underrated. So despite Jordan and Sanders being out, they're going to be just fine. The running backs get involved in the screen game, those long developing run plays as well against the Notre Dame run defense. It's been pretty good this year. Nobody's really been able to crack them. The most they gave up this year was 158 to Arkansas, who they blew out, and they handled them very well. USC, though, Nick, they established some physicality up front that we didn't think we would see against Michigan. That's why they had so much success running the football. This defensive line for Notre Dame is just as good. Bobakar Traore, Bryce Young coming off the edge are great. Gabriel Rubio, Donovan Heinisch, Jason Onway, solid players on the interior, but none of them really stand out as alphas like they've had in previous years. I think Jared Dawson's a guy you might see it on the field a lot in contests like this. What do you think of this, Nick? Because USC, they've never had a chance of winning in South Bend, but they've also never really had any momentum. They just beat the brakes off a great defense, and if they can play like that up front yet again, they'll have a great shot at winning this one.
That bounce back win against Michigan was exactly what USC needed after losing a really close, heartbreaking game at Illinois. That was a huge bounce back for them. It still keeps them in the conversation in the Big Ten. That was a massive win for the Trojans, which they needed to see. 31 points on offense against a good Michigan team is a great thing to see if you're an SC fan. That 45.5 points per game, that is, so far this season. 6.38 yards per attempt on the ground is an incredibly strong number. 19 touchdowns for this team, while 8.31 yards per play. Maeva's looked really good under center. He's been really good for this team. 72% comp rate, 1,852 yards passing, I beg your pardon, 13 touchdowns to 2 picks. He's been really good. He's been dialed in, one of the best quarterbacks in the country. He's been really comfortable and confident here. Mekhi Lemon's been absolutely dominant, 682 and 6 touchdowns. I'm curious to see what that matchup looks like on Saturday in this game. Well, Jacoby Lane has 313 and 2 scores. Certainly need a little bit more out of him. Lake McCray, 300 yards receiving roughly and 20.6 yards per grab. Clearly, he needs to be a little more involved in the red zone. And beginning Walker Lyons, the other tight end, involved in the red zone a little bit. He's got 150 and 2 scores. But I think they've had really good balance so far, and have looked really good on offense. King Miller, the walk-on freshman, has come on and was really dominant, 160 yards on the ground and a touchdown in that game against Michigan. He's been really solid. So even though some of the backs have been banged up there in Jordan and Sanders, I think King Miller can take over and be really solid for this team. 3 backs over 250 yards rushing, multiple touchdowns for Sanders, Miller, and Jordan. Jordan leading the way with 5 rushing touchdowns, 576, but his health is obviously a bit of an issue. King Miller, though, I think can certainly step up and be a good back for this team. Notre Dame giving up 20.8 points per game. That a lot of that's inflated from the fact that they were in that 41 points given up in that loss against A&M, and they gave up 30 to Purdue as well. A lot in that garbage time. The last 2 weeks, only 7 points per game against Boise State and NC State. They've really shut down both those offenses at home and really dominated in those contests here. I like a lot of the pieces for this defense. Drake Bowen has been really good. 31 total tackles, a sack for him. He's been really solid. Adon Schuler has been really good in the secondary. 29 total tackles, 2 pass breakups. While Trey Johnson has been solid, or Tay Johnson has been solid as well. 26 total tackles, 2 pass breakups, and a pick. Boubacar Traore has been the big guy on the defensive line. 24 total tackles for him, 6.5 TFLs, 5.5 sacks. Really good production out of him. Certainly want to put pressure on Maeva, make him uncomfortable, and force him into mistakes. 3.35 yards per attempt on the ground given up this season, 6 rushing touchdowns total. So curious to see how this rushing defense for Notre Dame looks against this rushing attack for USC. That is certainly something you have to take into account when you're scheming against this team. I think Maeva can certainly get his legs involved. He's a key asset in the red zone as well. I think USC has a slight advantage on offense here. I think the offensive line is very physical and impressive and can certainly win there. Notre Dame is a very good defense, but I think USC has an opportunity to put some points on the board and be competitive in this matchup. I like the talent they have across the board, even if they are a little banged up.
This is a secondary for Notre Dame. They really struggled early on. You see them get torched against Texas A&M. Weren't all that great against Purdue. Last 3 weeks, they've really started to rally, and they've been forcing a lot of turnovers. 11 interceptions on the year. 7 of those coming over the last 2 games against Boise State and NC State. Those are 2 teams that have pretty good passing attacks. For Notre Dame, though, breaking in Chris Ash as defensive coordinator has opted to play a lot more zone coverage. I think you might look to see them opt to play a little bit more man here, which I think would be very gutsy. But Moore, he's a guy I think they're confident can hold up. Christian Gray got torched in this game last year. He's looking for redemption. If some of these younger guys in the secondary get involved, though, at corner, could be a problem for him, Nick, because guys like Mark Zachary, Carson Hobbs have not been very good this year. Dallas Golden, whenever he was healthy as well. So it's not a great group in terms of depth. So I think that they're probably going to opt to play a lot of zone here, which is going to give USC opportunities. And of course, Jaden Mayava looking for a bounce back. Last year, he put on a clinic against Notre Dame, but they went downfield to tie the game, and he ended up throwing a pick six. They lost that game. He went and threw another one right after that. So this is a guy that's also looking for redemption. So it's not just a rivalry. There's a couple of guys here, Gray and Mayava, Nick, that are wanting to have a different tale than how it ended in LA last year.
Yeah, I think Jaden Maiev is certainly going to be locked in and wanting to have a big opportunity to play good football here. I think he clearly knows what happened last year. He's going to remember that and try to be locked in and be good. Same thing with Christian Gray, who certainly has to be a little more reliable in this matchup here. I think this is just a big potential matchup advantage for USC to attack the secondary. I don't think it's a bad unit per se for Notre Dame, but I just don't think it's been impressive throughout the season. Yes, they've improved the last 2 weeks, but I wouldn't say that NC State or Boise State are two offenses that are going to absolutely torch you through the air. This is something that they haven't really seen this year. This is something they're going to see and really be attacked over and over again. And A&M had a lot of success at attacking them through the air here. Clear blueprint of success for USC.
Now we move to the Notre Dame offense on that SC defense for Notre Dame. This is a group that also kind of started off the year on a tough note. They were able to rally against Texas A&M and probably should have won that game. CJ Carr, still a young quarterback, but I think he's showing a lot of confidence and he's really molding into that passer they expected he would be. 270 yards per game. They're airing it out a bunch this year. They used his legs a lot against Miami, and I was like, is that really what they're going to opt to do with Carr? Because it's not really in his wheelhouse, and they haven't. He hasn't topped more than 3 rushing attempts once this year since. They've not had to stick to their bread and butter that worked with Riley Leonard last year, so he's been able to sit back and drop back passing and cook. Jordan Fajon's been great for them. Eli Raridan at tight end's been a big play weapon. Malachi Fields has strong hands. He can make plays downfield. Will Pauling out of the slot is starting to get involved a lot more. So I'm a big fan of this receiving group. I think it's a very impressive one. Going up against the USC secondary, who I think they're really good at safety. Bishop Fitzgerald, phenomenal addition from NC State. He's been really good in coverage, as is Kamari Ramsey. At corner, Nick, this team just does not seem to have any talent. They're just not that good at this position. Marcellus Williams, DeCarlos Nicholson have been good when it comes to efficient tackling and respectable against the run, but in coverage, nobody knows what they're doing. Neither does Braylon Conley. Neither does DJ Harvey. Anybody else they put out at corner is no good either. It's just a big weakness for them. So for USC to offset that, this pass rush is going to have to get back to cooking like it did early on in the year. They didn't show up against Illinois. Pass rush was abysmal. The run defense was awful. The D-line was pretty much useless, Nick. They stepped back, though, showcased nice physicality against Michigan. They didn't give up many explosive runs at all, limited them to 109 yards rushing against a ground attack that a lot of people thought would absolutely scorch SC. They're able to come up with 3 sacks as well. Braylon Shelby, phenomenal edge rusher. Devon Tompkins on the interior can provide some pressure. Eric Gentry is a downhill blitzer, a linebacker. Cameron Crawford and Anthony Lucas. I mean, it's a legit edge group, right? And for them to not show up against Illinois was definitely concerning. And now they go on the road again, and that could potentially be a problem if they can't show up. I'm not sure what version of SC we're going to get, Nick, and that's the biggest question mark, really, is are they going to be able to slow down the run? Because Illinois was killing them downhill, physicality. Against Michigan, though, they stopped it. So it's strange because Notre Dame's going to obviously look to run the football of Jadarian Price and Jeremiah Love. The Irish offensive line has been a little bit shaky this year. Anthony Knapp at left tackle, not really making the strides we thought he would. And then, of course, on the interior, Billy Schrafe is still very solid at center. It's been a respectable position with Ashton Craig. Right guard has been really tough. Charles Jaggy saw. I'm not sure what his injury status is. I need to look at it, but his replacement's not been very good. How do you see this one playing out, Nick? Because what version of SC is going to show up is going to dictate this one. I envision it's going to be a weaker one, but who knows? I mean, they're just up in the air, but they are capable of playing good football.
Yeah, they've played good football. They played really good football against Michigan, which was seemed like a bit of an outlier for this defense. I think that's going to be potentially an outlier when it's all said and done. 21.3 points per game given up, 3.46 yards per attempt on the ground, and 3 touchdowns. That's a pretty good number for this run defense, 5.62 yards per play. They've certainly got torched through the air, which, again, there's another matchup advantage here. I think this will be a high-scoring game. I think both these offenses are really solid through the air. They're not as great on the ground. Yeah, I think USC is better on the ground than Notre Dame is, but I think this is a secondary for USC that's still a little bit weak and vulnerable. I think Eric Gentry is a good leader at linebacker, and he's clearly a guy that's been around the program for a while and getting good productivity on the, as a linebacker. 41 total tackles, 7 TFLs, 3 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, been really good there. Bishop Fitzgerald's been really good as well. 30 total tackles, 5 picks, a sack for him. He had a pick 6 in there, a pass breakup. He's been really good. But outside of that, Marcellus Williams has not really impressed me at corner. I think he's a bit concerning. Dakar Nicholson as well have not really impressed me at corner. I think corner is certainly a weak spot for this USC team. This is an opportunity for Notre Dame to take advantage of that and attack that. Notre Dame, 40 points per game, been really solid, 4.71 yards per attempt on the ground, 7.18 yards per play, 13 passing touchdowns, only 3 picks on the season. Carr has been really good, 66% comp rate, 1,600 yards passing, 13 touchdowns, 3 picks. He looks really confident and dialed in the pocket here. Faison has stepped up and been a really big target for this team. Malachi Fields, Eli Reardon have both been incredible targets for this team. Certainly Fields and Reardon have been playing really good football there. I like what they've been able to do. Will Pauling has quietly impressed me. 245 yards receiving, 3 scores for him. And then Jeremiah Love has 3 receiving touchdowns out of the backfield. He's certainly the guy you want to look to. The rushing attack has not been as dominant for Notre Dame. Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price, both are having decent enough seasons. 530 for Love, 420 for Jadarian Price. They have 7 touchdowns for Price, 8 for Love. But still, I think there's a little bit more you want to see out of this rushing attack for Notre Dame. The offensive line, I think, has been really solid despite continue fighting a little bit of injuries and some mixing and matching. I think Carr is going to try and beat this USC team through the air. I think that's his best bet. Is certainly he's going to try and attack those corners, which are a little bit weak here. I think the passing attack is the key to success early on for Notre Dame. Try to set the tempo early, go through the air. They clearly have a solid quarterback under center. I don't think Carr is more of a running quarterback. I think he's a pocket passer who can certainly pass downfield and pick you apart here. I think this will be a higher scoring affair because there'll be a lot of points put on the board by these offenses. They'll be very accurate, and they'll really go after each other overall. I think this is a Notre Dame offense that just has a good matchup against a weak USC secondary that's just not really impressing me up to this point in the season.
I think it's going to be a big test for the linebackers, too, from a mentality standpoint. They're going to be looking to run the football a lot at you. There's going to be some tough plays, some tough gaps that you need to hit. And can they stay consistent when things are going sideways? Will they be able to overcome that adversity and continue to try and make plays? Guys like Eric Gentry, Jaden Walker, Desmond Stevens. It'll be interesting to see. What are the final thoughts on the prediction? No pick for me as an SC fan, but, I'm not expecting to win this game. We've been abysmal in South Bend over the last decade plus. We've never even had a chance to win this game, Nick. It's usually over within the first 2 drives, and they just need to avoid disaster. You don't need to get out to a hot start or nothing like that. Just avoid disaster. Don't go out there, throw a pick 6, muff a punt, have a bad flag on 3rd and long on defense. Just, the small stuff, right, that should be simple when it comes to starting a football game. If they can do that, then I think if they can weather that storm, then they'll be able to hang around in this one. I like our chances when it comes to the offense being able to produce. Can the defense show up like they did last week? I mean, I think it's unlikely, but I've seen this defense showcase the ability to play competent football under DeAnton Lynn. I'm not sure what performance will happen. The Michigan game or the Illinois one, I think maybe something in between. Irish are a tough out to beat, Nick. I think SC. I like our chances in this one. I'm not expecting to win again by any stretch of the imagination, and obviously the books aren't believers either, as we're 8.5, 9.5 point underdogs. You're going to stick with the Irish, and I totally understand, but this would be a monumental victory, a signature win under Lincoln Riley, and it'd put them right into the top 10 in the thick of things when it comes to the CFP.
Yeah, certainly a win for USC on the road would put them in the conversation for the college football playoff. It would be an incredible resume that would be tough to beat in the Big Ten. Would be one of the better resumes in the country. I think there's a couple teams in the SEC that have better resumes, but still would be quite a strong resume for the Trojans. I think they cover the spread and they'll keep this competitive. They'll keep it close here. I think this is an opportunity for a lot of points to be scored on the board by both teams. I think the over is at a high total for a reason at 61.5 because the books think there'll be a lot of points in this one. These are two high flying offenses and two defenses that are a little suspect, a little questionable at times here. I like what Maeva can do. I like what Carr can do. I think both these offenses are very interesting. I think USC is a better rushing attack so far this season, even though the backs are better on paper for Notre Dame. But I think this is going to be a pass first game where they're going to attack you through the air over and over again. It will go back and forth. I think Notre Dame will get a key stop or interception to win this game ultimately and pull off a nice win at home. USC obviously would love to get a win here, but Notre Dame has a lot of work to do if they want to get to the college football playoff. They don't have a lot of tests left on the schedule after this. It's a pretty straightforward, easy schedule in my opinion after that. At BC, Navy, those should be pretty easy contests. Pitt is not the greatest team in the world, so that's not the worst road trip. Syracuse and Stanford. So this is an opportunity for for Notre Dame to get a nice win on the resume, who certainly needed after those two losses to open the season. Big game, big stakes, obviously, in college football playoff. The winner puts himself in a great spot to make the playoff. The loser puts themselves in a tough position. I think USC still has a pathway, even with two losses currently, considering what they have going forward left on the schedule with a trip to Nebraska and Oregon coming up on the docket. But a loss would certainly hamper either one of these teams. I think it'll be close. I think it'll be a fight to the end, but I think Notre Dame gets the job done, ultimately wins this game, and puts themselves back in a good spot for the college football playoff. But expect a back and forth with a pair on ESPN. Expect a good competition, a great matchup between two rivals in a very intriguing rivalry week during a game that's during a rivalry week with some other rivalry matchups going down as well around the same time. Should be a very exciting game on NBC.
That's great for today's episode. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.